future me is probably going to hate myself for this decision. This is by far the most disappointing book I've ever read. What? I don't know how I didn't see that coming, but this, oh, it's so good. Hi friends, so my birthday is coming up here on March 14th, Pi Day. By the time that you've seen this, my birthday will probably already have passed because I will include video footage. We're gonna go up to Kansas City. I'm gonna show you what I end up doing on my birthday because I just spend my birthday doing things that bring me joy, and I don't answer the phone because I hate talking on the phone and I hate listening to people saying happy birthday to me. But I thought in honor of my 27th birthday coming up that I would do a vlog reading like a Pisces. When I say that, do I know what that means? No, but we are going to find out in this vlog, okay? I know the minimal amount that there is to know about this, and that's because every time that I feel like I've looked up, like, what is a Pisces, or I used to like read the little, what were they called? Horoscope? Is that it? I never felt like I related to Pisces. I heard via the internet that sometimes it's not like that main sign. Sometimes you won't really relate to that. You have to take into account the other signs, but I don't know what those other signs are. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out exactly what that is, and then maybe I'll be able to feel like I relate to my zodiac a little bit more. And then we're going to look up some quizzes and articles on what people recommend for Pisces to read. And I'm gonna read those books and we're gonna see, what does reading like a Pisces even mean? What are the characteristics of a Pisces, and therefore how does that translate into what books that you might love? And do I relate to that? And do I relate to the things that I should love when it comes to reading like a Pisces? I'm really excited to learn more about myself. I'm feeling good about this vlog, and I'm feeling good about year 27. It has gotta be better than some of the years in this past, okay? I feel like as I start getting closer to 30, I start thinking maybe I will figure out what's going on. Because when I was younger, I thought that like 27 sounded so old, 30 sounded ancient, and now I'm almost 27 and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. But hopefully we can at least find this out together. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that we have to do is I have to figure out what my signs are. I think from what I know, you only have to know like where you were born and what time. March 14th, 1996. Time of birth, not 3 a.m. I believe it was 4:32. It's somewhere around there. Okay, my zodiac sign is Pisces. Moon is Capricorn. Maybe I knew that. And Virgo is ascendant. I don't know if this means anything to anyone. I am 9,856 days old. That's horrifying. Feels like a lot of time that I should have spent figuring out how to get my shit together. Maybe there are YouTube videos that'll tell me a little bit more about me. Pisces, Sun, Capricorn, Moon. What do these mean? Maybe we should start there. Maybe I should look up what is your sun, moon, and rising sign. Like, what do they mean?
Your sun sign defines your own individuality. It drives how we seek to define ourselves and build an identity in this world. Your sun sign can also define how you approach life and your overall nature. And now your moon sign, make it as obvious where the moon was the very moment you were born. And that defines your inner self.
So my inner self is Capricorn. This kind of makes sense because anytime people described a Pisces, I was like, but I don't feel that.
And now your moon sign, make it as obvious where the moon was the very moment you were born. And that defines your inner self. It can give you insights into your own emotions and fears, and also really, really help you understand how you feel and how you love other people. The moon governs your moods, and pretty much it's the way you are around your closest friends and family.
I'm learning. I need chapstick. Probably need water, but it's gonna be a no for me.
On the eastern horizon, the very moment that you were born. This expresses how you interact with people and how people view you and perceive you, how they are capable of understanding you. It's really tied into people's first impressions of you.
So then your rising sign is how people perceive you upon first interaction, which I feel like you guys can let me in on. Is that the vibe I'm giving off? Am I giving off a Virgo vibe? I don't know if there's videos out there on all 3 of my combinations. That seems like a lot of work someone would have to do. Okay, I can't find all 3 of these, but I can find one on Pisces, Sun, and Capricorn, Moon.
When someone has their sun in Pisces, they are generally very sensitive, caring, and just vibrant dreamers. They love to get lost in their imagination, probably thinking of mystical realms and spiritual stuff. You know, they kind of have their head in the clouds a little bit to a degree, and a lot of Pisces like to get high off of really anything, whether that's high on life, meditation, sex, drugs. Like,
I don't know if I've been the like super creative type in the sense of like living in my own head and worlds, but I like doing that in books. Like fantasy books are my favorite. I love getting swept up into a new world. Maybe that tracks there.
And because they have their head in the clouds a little bit, Pisces aren't the most observant people in the world. And that's why they kind of have the reputation or the stereotype of being kind of gullible or not really knowing what's going on. You know, humor goes over their head. The other reason is that Pisces just assume the best in people, and they take things very literally, and they always assume that whoever is talking to them or approaching them has good intentions and is being honest.
No, that's not me. I observe probably to a fault. Like, I feel out exactly what everyone, like exactly how people are feeling. What are they feeling? How am I making them feel? I do assume that most people are inherently good, in that trauma and shit that happens to us and the tools and resources that we've been given can often skew how people act, and they can behave and act in not good ways. But I don't think that it's in like a naive way. It's not in a way of thinking that like everyone has good intentions. It's far from that.
Now we get to Capricorn Moon. So Capricorn Moons are very intelligent, hardworking, ambitious, and they enjoy learning. It's a pretty charming placement, and it is motivated by money and status, mainly money and finances.
I don't think I'm money motivated, but this is very interesting because if you don't know, my like full-time job is a personal finance content creator. So I do talk about money, but that was more so like I was sharing my journey with learning about how to manage my money, and then people just really related to that, and then it grew into this business. It was like, I actually hate money. Like, I hate that this is something that we have to think about. And my channel is like from a very like anti-capitalist, not wanting to have to think about money kind of perspective, but trying to make it as relatable and accessible as possible. But that is very interesting.
Capricorn Moons kind of have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They feel responsible for things getting done, even if someone else was supposed to do it. So Capricorn Moons make really good employees because they're so hardworking, and they'll go the extra mile to make sure that everything else is getting done. It's a very determined placement, and it's pretty opinionated, and it can be kind of narrow-minded and stuck in their ways at times.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. That was another part of boundaries that I was working on, was with like jobs and other people, like trying not to fix other people, trying to realize that like there's only like I can only control what I can control. I can't control other people's behaviors. I can't try to fix things for other people. I used to do this a lot at my jobs, and I would get burnt out because I would try to be like the best employee there was, and I would just, oh my god, group projects were awful because I would just finally just do it all myself because I felt like no one else was doing it up to the standards that it should be done. So feeling a little called out, but yeah, I would agree with that.
Capricorn Moon definitely adds a lot of practicality and a lot more level-headedness to Pisces, and so I really think this helps balance out Pisces a lot. It adds this hard-working, practical, like 2 feet planted on Earth kind of approach to Pisces. The Moon will also help kind of stick up for Pisces, in that they're far less likely to get taken advantage of, more than once, let's say, because maybe they'll need to learn how that happened. But then Capricorn is good about righting things, righting the ship. They're not going to keep doing the same thing over and over and keep getting the same result if it's a negative result that they don't want to continue getting.
Okay, I could see it. I could see the combinations between the two. But then it's interesting to me because I'm like, okay, I know that like a lot of those things came from a trauma response, but did they come, like, was I inherently more apt to respond to trauma in that way because I already had those base characteristics of like wanting to make other people happy, really being attuned to other people's emotions, feeling other people's emotions like they're my own, and then therefore when I went into like responding to trauma mode, that is how I did it, and that's how I learned to like adapt and relate to people? Maybe. Wow, okay, that feels like enough for exposing who Lexa is. I feel like I learned a lot about me, you learned a lot about me, and now we can take that information going into figuring out what books I'm going to read, reading like a Pisces, keeping in mind that I am not just a Pisces, I'm a Pisces, Capricorn, Leo. But now with that knowledge, hopefully I'll be able to figure out why certain recommendations of books and why certain like aspects or genres or themes in books work for me and others don't. So I actually needed to get this next part filmed so that I could order any books that I needed, request them from my library. So we're backtracking in time a little bit. The next thing that we're gonna go to is me reacting to like the different books that are recommended for reading like a Pisces. So keep in mind that I didn't know this extra information about being a Capricorn, Moon, and Leo rising at the time of filming that, but I will going forward with all of my book check-ins and building my TBR. I also think in this vlog it'll be fun to do some other things like a Pisces. So maybe we can like find out what colors or symbols are associated with Pisces, and I can like do my makeup or wear clothes based off of that. If there's like a Starbucks drink or Dunkin' Donuts drink for Pisces. I am so excited about this. Let's do it. This is the Every Girl, what you should read next based on your zodiac sign. I feel like I'm missing something, but there's no header for like what these books are, so I'm trying to look in the descriptions. Ooh, wish I was a Capricorn because Ophelia after all is on my TBR. Okay, Pisces. Love Boat Taipei by Abigail Hing Wen. Equal parts surprising, original, and intelligent. Let's see what it says. When I'm most emotionally aware of the zodiac, Pisces is no stranger to gravitating towards stories about love and loss. I would say I gravitate towards stories about loss and love, but usually love as a side plot, a subplot. But I have been reading a lot of stories about grief and loss and forgiveness and complicated kinds of love. It seems possibly like a YA or a new adult contemporary kind of story, which those are kind of hit or miss for me, but I've had some real wins lately. So that could be good. So now I sent a link for Scribd, which is like the Netflix version of audiobooks. They have a reading for your zodiac sign. I think it's all zodiac signs, but hopefully I'll be able to narrow down some recommendations for Pisces. But I think that this is a mixture of nonfiction and fiction. They always start off with Aries, so my guess is that Pisces is always gonna kind of be toward the bottom, but let's see what we've got going on here. I feel like Brene Brown is always on these lists. I love Brene Brown, but she is like, it's like, if you have a nonfiction book, you've got to put Brene Brown on there, on these reading like ... lists. Okay, Pisces, we have two. Okay, so we have a nonfiction and a fiction. For the nonfiction, we have Crushing It, How Great Entrepreneurs Build Their Businesses. Is that a white man?
A white man? No!
Building your brand in the noisy world of social media. That seems like something I absolutely do not want to read, but I appreciate it. Something I am excited for is the fiction recommendation, which is The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. For Pisces, staying true to yourself is key to a successful year. Let Ray's touching story inspire you. Oliver, this is my moment. You are not a Pisces. This is not your moment to shine. Another YA new adult contemporary. That sounds really good. That has been on like the list of books that I've seen and I've wanted to read. So even though I'm gonna probably hard pass on that nonfiction, the fiction one, I'm excited about. Now, this next one, the stars are aligned. 2022 book recommendations based on your zodiac sign. Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm so excited! I didn't expect to be there toward the top. Loving that for me, but also notes on an execution. When I tell you how many times I have borrowed this from the library, thought about buying it, oh, this is definitely my excuse to buy it. Because I have heard so many good things about this, and it has been on the top of my TBR. I've just not gotten around to it. Please, just go ahead. I can't wait for this. What a recommendation. This is probably the one I'm most excited for so far. This is another blog post, and this is only like a few weeks old. February 18th, 2023. Not even a few weeks old. Pisces. Oh my god. Okay, I might not relate to anything Pisces, but I am relating to all of the book recommendations for Pisces. The Priory of the Orange Tree. Now let me tell you, while I am excited about this recommendation, this is like an 800-page book. So I would have to really get on that. I've heard that this is dragons, sapphic, high fantasy, stories about women. Like what else screams more me than that? Come on. For my fellow Pisces, I thought nothing would be better than an 800-page epic fantasy novel. Well, you thought correctly. For this Pisces. Pisces are dreamers. I've seen that word a lot. We got dreamers down as Pisces, who love to delve into magical worlds. Any Pisces will be enthralled by the intricate details masterfully woven to create a high-stakes fantastical adventure. That sounds right up my alley. And now it's very hard to choose between whether I'm most excited about Notes on an Execution or The Priory of the Orange Tree. Because I feel like as far as recommendations go, that's pretty spot on. Insider reviews. The best new books to read in 2022 based on your zodiac sign. One Italian Summer. It's giving me like maybe romance or contemporary vibes. We're known for being emotional and intuitive and walking the line between fantasy and reality. Okay. So One Italian Summer is the perfect Pisces read. This book uses magical realism to bring Katie's story to life as she adventures on a mother-daughter trip alone shortly after her mom passes away. But this is one that I haven't really heard of. Sorry, she needs her attention. A mutually assumed a terrorist attack and growing Islamophobia brings 3 Black Muslim girls together over a blog used as an outlet and support system for a community of Muslim teens across the country. That sounds amazing. Again, another YA contemporary. Do we have one more? I've definitely seen this cover before, and I've actually picked this book up before. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akweke Emezi. Pisces are sure to love the passion in Akweke Emezi's writing and want to follow Faye till the very last page as she seeks joy and healing after loss. Now, I did pick this up. I didn't DNF it like on purpose. It was just I read like the first couple of chapters and then I ended up reading something else. Akweke Emezi has been on my TBR list for a long time. So here are all of the books that were recommended to me. These are the ones that I had already heard of, and these are the ones that I'm leaning most toward. I can't wait. Let's do it. Future me is probably going to hate myself for this decision, but I'm gonna read The Priory of the Orange Tree. Out of all of the books that were recommended, this was the one that I was most excited about. Is a huge 800 book conducive to this vlog? Most likely not, but I got the Kindle version of this so that I can read it on the go. In fact, I already have started reading it on the go because today, right now it is 4:34, read it and weep, because I have been up since 6:30 planning and trying to get everything together and going to the DMV to switch everything over from all of my Michigan stuff, my plates, my license, everything, to my Missouri. Not fun, not fun. I went to go get an inspection because in Missouri you're supposed to have an inspection. Come to find out, I didn't need an inspection. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, Oliver. The actual process of getting my license, if that's all I had to do, I would have been in and out in probably 15 minutes. Fastest experience I would have ever had. But it was the title and the car stuff. So while I was waiting in line, and like while I was waiting on my car to get an inspection, and then they had to change out one of the light bulbs, and then in line at the DMV, I started reading this book right here, which was the only thing thus far that has made today bearable. But to say that I am mentally exhausted feels like such an understatement. And let me tell you, this book is not for the faint of heart. I don't know at this point in time if I would recommend this to beginners to high fantasy, so just know that going in, because I had to start jotting down notes on like who people were and what some of their backstories are, because we are introduced to like, in my opinion, a pretty large cast of characters who aren't all interacting with each other. We're getting kind of multiple points of view. It's divided up between chapters that are in the East and chapters that are in the West. And could I tell you what this is about so far? I don't know about that. So far, we do have a pretty diverse cast of female characters, which I am loving. Instead of focusing on some king, we're focusing on a queen. We've gotten a little dabble of magic, but honestly not too much, but we have gotten introduced to dragons, which this is the first fantasy book I have ever read about dragons or that have dragons in them. And I fear that this is going to turn me into a dragon-loving fantasy girl. And I don't fear that because I think that that's a bad thing. I fear it because I don't know a lot of fantasy that like actually has dragons in them. But I mean, come on, look at that. Amazing. I don't have the audiobook for this, so if I'm pronouncing some of the characters' names wrong, I apologize. This is not something that like you can kind of space out and then come back in and pick up. No. I've accidentally done that a few times, and I've had to go back and reread to keep up to make sure that like I know what is going on and that I have all of these people connected. But I will say, as soon as I started writing down like the people's names and like a few little things about them, it was easier for everything to start clicking. What I can tell you of this book thus far. We start off in Tanae's perspective, which she is a badass girl who's been training to become a dragon rider. On the night before the choosing, when she like that all of that is supposed to happen, this man comes just walking out of the ocean, and she's not supposed to be outside. So she is faced with having to like choose what she's gonna do about that situation. And she is the main perspective that we're starting off with in the East. Then we have the West, which they're not on amicable terms very often. In the West is where we have the Queen and Ede. The Queen is the Queen, who she is like responsible for producing an heir, another girl who will later become Queen, but she's really trying to reconcile with that. And then Ede is working for the Queen, and maybe she's a little bit magical, but not a lot of people trust her, or they're a little bit wary of her because she wasn't born of their fate? No. She wasn't born of their faith, which people have questions about, and they're a little bit worried about that. Excuse me? Leave your sister alone. And I have a feeling as we go on, all of these perspectives are just kind of. I'm excited about this. I'm ready to get a little bit more of the dragons. We got a little bit of a taste of them, but please bring them back, please, Samantha. After the DMV, I dropped by Barnes & Noble and I read a little bit of this, shopped around. I thought maybe to congratulate myself for actually getting all of this shit done on time, that I would buy a book, but there was nothing there that really spoke to me. And I honestly think that's just because my brain is fried at this point. So even though it is only 5 p.m., I am going to go curl up in bed. And now I'm very thankful for the choice that I made to get the Kindle version of this too, because it's so much easier to read my Kindle when I'm in bed. And I'll let you know if I get a better grasp of what is going on in this book. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. It's been a few days since I've updated you. Today is my birthday. We are officially there. I was sick for a few days and I just did not feel like being in front of the camera. And I thought about just scrapping this whole video idea, but I think we're gonna end up having enough time and it's gonna be perfect because I still am kind of on track with reading. So a few of my reading updates. I am almost done. I think I'm about 90% through with The Priory of the Orange Tree. So here's the thing. Go into this, like, it is an epic fantasy, right? Like, it's an 800-page book. And I would say until like part 2, which is like the 250-page mark, I had no idea what was going on. I was still trying to keep up with everyone. Then I kind of was figuring things out. That's when I feel like I finally had a good footing of like who everyone was and what the politics were. This is mainly a political maneuvering based fantasy and a character based fantasy. Not a lot is happening. There's just a lot of strategizing and learning about the different pieces of people in this kingdom so that eventually they can all kind of come together and the story can unfold. But for me, I prefer when especially if I'm gonna read an 800-page fantasy, the fantasy has a lot of magic to it and there's like a magic system that we can learn about, which here there is, but we don't really learn about it until like 600 pages, 550 pages into the book. And even then, it's more about the lore of that magic being important to the story than it is about the like people actually doing magic. So if I had to rate this book right now, it would be like a 3.5 star. I wish that this entire story was mainly focused on Tanae and her point of view. She is the dragon rider, the girl that we see at the beginning who is like learning to train to hopefully be able to become a dragon rider. She's such a fucking badass. I love her and her storyline. The rest of the characters, I just don't care about, which is saying a lot because I love character-based stories, but I love them because I have to care about the characters. And that's how I feel about Tanae. Like anytime she comes on page, I'm like, thank God we're back to her. Everything else, I'm just kind of like trudging through until we get back to her story. That's where I'm at with that. I also started, I have to go quickly because I'm meeting my mom for breakfast. I did start and I'm about halfway through Notes on an Execution. This, oh my God, amazing. Notes on an Execution, it's literary fiction, but it is following the perspective of a serial killer who is on death row, who is like hours away from being executed. And then we're kind of bouncing back and forth between his perspective and the women who he has affected. And I was a little bit worried that this was gonna go in the direction of like trying to make us sympathize and like see, like by seeing his perspective, trying to sympathize with what he did or justify it or make him seem like relatable or cool. No, this is doing an amazing job at humanizing people, like having nuanced conversations about whether people are all good or all bad. Can you do such horrible things? And can we still see like the humanity in you? Is it worth that? How far is too far of the negative impact that you can have in people's lives? And whose stories are worth telling? I am loving it so far. I'm loving getting these different perspectives. I love how we're getting to see like his whole life and what brought him to where he is, but mainly the impact that he has had on the women who have kind of like been in his circle. I'm gonna head out, get some breakfast with my mom. Then I think we'll pull up and look. I wish that I knew where my car mount is for my camera, but I don't. We'll make it work. I'm thinking we should get Starbucks based on my zodiac sign. I'm thinking maybe we should go book shopping and I'll keep you updated on what I'm reading. And then tonight I have dinner with my family. It's gonna be a good day. I'm excited. Let's do it. I just got done with breakfast with my mom. So I'm thinking we should look up and see what I should drink based on my zodiac sign. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm hoping for an iced drink. Just because it is cold outside, it's like in the 30s, but as I'm kind of running around, I prefer to have ice drinks to continuously sip on. Since they say Pisces are like the dreamers and very emotional, I'm kind of wondering if it's gonna be something like sweet. I feel like that would be on brand, right? Are Pisces also water signs though? I don't know what that would mean. Maybe like a refresher or something like chocolatey. So I found this Instagram reel that like cycles through which Starbucks drink you should get. We're gonna watch that and see. Wait, excuse me, I was left out of that. Okay, just kidding. That only had some of the signs, since I was not represented in that TikTok and I don't feel like scrolling back to find the rest of them if they made a second one. I found this insider article, the Starbucks drink you should order based on your zodiac sign. See, this would be my ideal. A pink drink is like my go-to drink. Those are for my Aries out there. Lucky you. Ooh, I also love a good matcha green tea latte. Oh no. Java chip frappuccino. As a water sign, you're super emotional and empathetic. You're also intuitive, artistic, quite dreamy, and intense. Okay, so intense, in fact, that you probably don't need any extra caffeine to get you going for the most part. I have ADHD, so I don't need caffeine to get me going, but it helps to keep me focused. But luckily I have saved up a couple of my Adderall since there's a shortage for today, so that hopefully I can be a functional human being today. Okay, so here's the thing, is I used to work at Starbucks, and therefore the Frappuccino base grosses me out so much that I can't drink Frappuccinos with the regular coffee. So I am gonna modify this just a little bit and do espresso, probably blonde espresso, because that's my favorite, instead of a typical. I will get the Java Frappuccino, but I think I'm gonna substitute Frappuccino base for blonde espresso. Hi, can I get a venti Java chip Frappuccino, but can I get it made with blonde espresso instead of the Frappuccino roast? I feel like they used to let you sub out espresso for Frap roast. So either they don't let you do that anymore, or they just didn't know about it. Maybe it's just like not a common request anymore. It's not that the Frap roast is like bad or anything, it's that the smell of it is not good when it's like just on its own. So now, like if I get that and I drink a Frappuccino with that in it, I feel like I can smell it. So I would not recommend getting this if you don't have a free drink, because it was like $9. Java chip Frappuccino, look at this though, it's beautiful. An icon, a legend. Mocha is not my favorite. I would have actually, like if I was gonna order this and make it my own, other than I cheated on the Frap roast. But this way I give it a fair shot, because otherwise I wouldn't have liked it no matter what. I probably would have done white mocha instead of mocha. And I honestly probably wouldn't have, like I would have done like the double chocolate chip, which means that there's no coffee in it at all. I actually really do like that when it's made with white mocha, because then you get like the chocolate chips and it's kind of like an Oreo. Okay, listen, if your Starbucks doesn't let you sub out Frap roast, it is more expensive, so wait until you have a free drink. But Frappuccinos are infinitely better with blonde espresso. I'm gonna give it to that Insider article. I was a little bit nervous, but I'm sold. This is delicious. I also always eat the whipped cream off the top, because otherwise it just gets mixed into the drink and then it's not as good. And the whipped cream with the mocha syrup, solid combo. Okay, so I did make my way toward the other end of town, so I'm gonna go to the thrift store. I didn't film very much because I didn't buy anything. I actually went to both the local thrift store and Goodwill. It doesn't look like they've gotten anything new in stock since the last time that I went there. I'm not gonna sit here and speculate on what I'm gonna do, because who knows what I'm gonna do. But I do know next, I'm going to Barnes & Noble. I feel like I both succeeded and failed at my goal for this year, but that's fine. So one of my main goals with reading, this is something that's kind of new that's come up for me, is I'm realizing I used to get a lot of like paperback books, and paperback books used to be like my jam. I would go down fighting that I hated hardback books because I liked the way that paperback books felt. But that was back when I was big into breaking spines of books. And I don't mind, like I still would prefer to break the spines of books when I'm reading, but I hate how it looks on the shelf. Back when I barely read anything, when I would read like a couple books a year, that wasn't a big deal because I wasn't like displaying my books. So now that I love displaying books, I don't like breaking the spines of paperbacks. Therefore, they're not as comfy to read, because all of this is about like the reading experience and how comfortable it is for me. I've started to realize it's easier for me to read books on my Kindle. After a while, trying to hold a book open really hurts. And actually, a lot of hardcover books are a little bit easier for me to read because I can put them like, I can put a pillow on my lap or I can sit at a desk and they'll stay pretty much open. I just have to kind of hold down a page lightly instead of like having to hold a book open. I've been trying to adapt more to either trying to get it through Libby or my library app if I can, but if not, buying it on Kindle first. Unless it's a book I know, like an author I know that I love, or a series of like fantasy books. But I've been trying to hold back on just buying books that I'm not sure I'm gonna love before I've actually read them. Because then I just end up with a lot of books that are like 3 stars that I'm never gonna read again, that I kind of feel like I wasted my money on. If I'm sweating and I look really dewy, it's because this car is heating up fast. The place that I failed is that I bought this book. Do I know anything about it? Absolutely not. The Mary Shelley Club but it looks kind of campy, horror-y. And the reason that I bought this is because it was at Barnes & Noble, if you've ever been in there, if you have one of them, a lot of times in the cafe where the Starbucks is, they'll have a table set, and it's usually like historical fiction books. And it's a deal where if you get a drink, you get this for $5. Normally it's historical fiction. I used to always buy those, and then I realized I was never reading them. But this one, I was like, oh my God, that looks like horror. So I picked that up and bought it for $5 because I was like, it's $5. It seems like it's gonna be super campy and maybe not my thing, but maybe. So first one I'm really excited about, Road of the Lost. The reason I'm so excited about this is because Nafisa Azad wrote The Wild Ones, which was one of my favorite books of last year, and I'm like, I will go down swinging that I don't understand why this has such low reviews, and I want everyone to read this, and everyone to love it, and everyone to support Nafisa Azad. Incredible. I loved that book so much. I actually read that as a library copy, and then immediately went out and bought myself a copy. So I automatically just went ahead and bought myself a copy of this. The other one, listen. I'm so excited. This author is working her way up to being one of my all-time favorite authors. I would just consider her an all-time favorite because there are few authors that I get excited about releases and excited about like keeping up with their books. She's one of them. And she made it quickly. Within the last like 6 months, I'd never read anything from her before the last like 6 months. This book, I can't even get a hold of on Amazon until April, the April 4th, I think. And this is a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Olive E. Blake. Look at it. Look at it. Stunning. One for my enemy. In case you're not convinced, I already showed you this in the B-roll, but we're looking again. Okay. Gorgeous. I'm so excited for this. Yeah, so even though this book was $27, 10% off, beyond worth it, and I feel like this is, again, a success because I love this author so much, I know that there's a high chance that I'm gonna love it. I ended up going to Ulta and just getting like $100 of random shit. I was looking for a Natasha Denona palette. I think they only sell those online, so. But I'm now at my mom's house. I think she's gonna be home here soon, but until then, I'm gonna read a little bit. I was listening to Notes on an Execution and loving it, but I think I'm gonna actually end up going back and rereading it, like some of the parts that I listened to, because I just feel like when I'm out and about, I'm not processing everything, and this is so good. There was already a twist that I was like, what? I don't know how I didn't see that coming, but this, oh, it's so good. And for me to love just like a contemporary literary fiction kind of book, I'm excited. I just feel like, knock on wood, March has been such an incredible reading month. We are approaching the last hour of my birthday, and I just finished Notes on an Execution. So let's talk about it. I want to preface this by saying, out of all of like the books that I've read, this is probably one of the more recommendable books. It has a majority 5-star rating on Goodreads. And I think that the balance that this finds between literary fiction and a little bit of like a splash of mystery thriller is really going to appeal to a lot of people. I also think the way that it goes about having conversations around the themes that we'll talk about is very accessible to the majority of people, and I think is going to be really impactful, and obviously is really impactful because tons of people have given this book 5 stars. Some of the themes that we cover in this book, I would say the main ones are the ethics of the death penalty. What is justice? Are people inherently good and bad, and are people inherently all good or all bad? We also have conversations around nature versus nurture, how we talk about victims, and especially like true crime cases, and the stories that we share and the voices that we choose to highlight. With that being said, I think that this did a relatively good job of having the author presenting different opinions on this, not even different opinions, different viewpoints from all of our characters, because we get the point of view of not only Ansel, who is our main character, the man who is on death row, but also we get the points of view of like 3 or 4 different women in his life, but we're learning about more than like the 3 or 4 women. I was going through most of this thinking it was gonna be like, I'm pretty sure I updated you and said this, like 5-star, possibly favorite of the year. Then kind of toward the end, as I was reading this last like hour, I was like, okay, maybe this is more of a 4-star. Then as I was writing out my thoughts, because I usually take notes just to make sure I stay on track, the more that I started writing down my thoughts, the more I was like, if I didn't hear so many amazing things about this, and if I didn't go into, like, this was one of my most anticipated reads, okay? But I tried to keep, and I feel like I did a really good job of like not trying to overhype this in my head and going in with realistic expectations, knowing that like this was not a traditional mystery thriller book. This is not. The issue is that I don't think that I'm the target audience for this. I'm gonna be honest here. I think I'm almost too leftist for this. I've spent a lot of time learning about, thinking about who the justice system lays out, what even is the justice system, the corruption of our system, and how we even try to find some semblance of do justice for the people who deserve justice in this corrupt system. So I think for the majority of people, like if these are themes that you're interested in, but you haven't really taken a lot of time to like really delve deep into them and really explore them and think a lot about them, this is going to do such a good job at opening up those conversations, making you think, and then allowing you to draw your own conclusions from it. I will say that she does a pretty good job of like, we can tell where she stands on things, but she's not handing things to you on like a platter and telling you exactly what you should think. There are like obviously characters in this that we disagree with. And I did see a lot of reviews that were like 1 star that said that they felt like this was trying to make us sympathize with Ansel. And I don't think that that's what it was doing. I just feel like these conversations went deeper and went more. And the thing that called out to me, like honestly made me realize, because I was just kind of like, I was like, what is not hitting for me about this? One is that we followed the perspective of a cop, and I kept waiting for us to have conversations around how corrupt cops are, and that didn't really happen. And I think that if you're going to have that perspective in a book that is having conversations about the criminal justice system, you can't leave that out. Especially if you're going to have the perspective of a cop. And I don't expect for a book that's having certain conversations about the criminal justice system to hit on everything, but that was a huge part that felt very unnatural and odd to leave out. And with that, the second thing that made me like click of like, oh yeah, this is what's feeling very weird to me, is toward the end of the book, there is, I don't even know if I could directly quote it to you without it being like a spoiler, and I don't know where it was. I wish that I would have. It felt like to me, it was literally like a sentence, a throwaway sentence about how misrepresented Black and brown people are in the system. And I just feel like that we went the whole book not having that conversation, which is what I realized felt so odd to me and disjointed from the conversations that the author was trying to have. So then to point out that you recognize that that's an issue, but only give it a sentence literally as a throwaway sentence at the end, felt not okay to me. And I believe that there was like one other sentence that was kind of like thrown in there in the middle about it. I don't feel okay with the fact that that conversation was left out in general, because again, if you're gonna explore, you cannot have conversations about justice, the death penalty, the prison and criminal justice system without having conversations about race, especially in the United States. So I think to acknowledge that, but only literally as a throwaway sentence, in my opinion, made me feel even more uncomfortable. But I'm not a person of color, so I am not the ultimate authority on that. I'm sure that like even by the time that I'm editing and uploading this, I'm going to have different feelings about this, because I think that this is a book that you can spend tons of time thinking about, but for me, it just didn't work the way that I thought it would. So I think at this point, I'm sitting at like a 3 star. I wrote down 3.5, but the more that my rating just keeps getting lower the more I think and talk about this, which makes me a little bit nervous, but it's less about the actual execution of this, because I really liked the execution. I liked the execution in the terms of like the writing. Loved the multiple points of view. This is such a flyby read. It's a read that like you can spend tons of time thinking about, but also it's so easy to get through. She really is an incredible writer. So I will say that. I just think for me, the more I think about the themes and the way that they were discussed, since this was so integral, like this whole book is based off of those themes and exploring them, I just don't think that this can be like a 5 or a 4 star read. So I think right now I'm sitting at somewhere between a 3 or a 3.5, but who knows where that could go up and down. Who knows? Why? There was nothing on, from what I can tell, like on the page that listed why it recommended this book specifically, but knowing that Pisces are generally like really empathetic, emotional people, they feel the emotions of others, they like to think deeply about like being a human and other humans, this totally makes sense. And I think that this like was a pretty spot on recommendation for Pisces. And I'm so glad that it was in this vlog and it was in one of those articles, so I actually got around to reading it. I have to complete Duolingo for the day so that I can keep my streak before midnight. Maybe I will finish Priory of the Orange Tree tonight. I just won't probably update you because I'll be in bed. But I also got a lot of editing to do, so we'll see. I looked up what are some Pisces colors, a color palette, and it seems like opinions differ, but it seems like it's within like this range. We've got like aquamarine colors, lavenders, pinks, sometimes like corally colors. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Easter. I don't have a lot of those colors. I do have, and I have been wanting to try it, this lavender. So I thought maybe I would just throw that all over my eyelids today. To be honest with you, I have literally no idea how this is gonna look. Worst case scenario, we just turn this into a really purpley makeup look, but I already did my foundation and I've had to redo my foundation 3 times already today for various reasons. So I really don't want to get it fallout all over and have to do it again. Guess who, instead of finishing Prior of the Orange Tree, stayed up all night last night watching quail eggs hatch? Me. And I have 0 regrets. I am sad because I ended up like going to sleep right before they actually ended up hatching. And then I woke up like an hour after they hatched. But there should be hopefully lots more to come today. I like this color. I just don't know if I like this color on me. Oh, that was a look. That was a decision for sure. My foundation just continues to oxidize and get more orange and orange. We're not gonna talk about it, okay? I think it's official that I have to go buy a lighter shade of this foundation, even though it looks like it looks too light when I apply it. And now it looks so dark. But it's fine. I'm just gonna continue to wear a crew neck. Hopefully you won't notice. What do we think? Am I giving you Pisces vibes? If you saw me on the street walking by, would you be like, that girl's a Pisces? I hope so. Why am I always just giving you the best view of like my trash can every single time that I sit in this room? So here's the thing. I think it's taken me too long to read the Prior of the Orange Tree because at this point I'm over it, but I still have like a couple of hours to go. So I'll be right back. 1 second. Sorry about that, friends. That leaves us pretty much with 3 YA contemporary stories. Love Boat Type A, The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, and You Truly Assumed. I'll do a little try chapter between these 3, but just know going into it that it's a little bit biased, that this is the one that I currently think I want to read. But maybe this will change my mind. The first chapter was only 10 pages, and in this we are following Yami, and she's talking with her brother Caesar because they're getting ready to transfer to a different school. I think they're going to transfer to a private school. And it seems like Caesar, her brother, has been having a hard time at school. And then we also get a glimpse that she was struggling the last few weeks, especially with her friend, because her friend outed her. I'm intrigued at the premise of this, since this was like the one I was most excited about. But I don't know if so far I'm loving the writing. And it's hard to tell because it is only 10 pages, but it feels like it's written like a little bit more younger YA, which isn't a bad thing. I just don't know if that's exactly what I'm in the mood for. I feel like this is gonna be something I would need to continue to read on to see if I was vibing with it. But a little bit surprising because I really thought that I was gonna be more intrigued. So now I'm gonna go to the one that I was most iffy about and see if maybe this one is gonna blow me out of the water. In this one, we're following Ever, and I actually read a few pages past the first chapter because the first chapter was pretty short and I didn't feel like I was really getting a glimpse at what was going on. But it starts off with like emails from different schools where she has a lot of rejection letters, but then one acceptance letter to Northwestern for their School of Medicine. But then at the end of the chapter, beginning of the second chapter, that she actually gets into this school for dance that she was really excited about. But her parents don't approve. They want her to focus on medicine. But we also end the chapter with her mom telling her that she has like news about the summer, but she leaves before her mom can tell her. So from reading from the synopsis, it seems like the news her mom's about to tell her is that for that summer, she is sending her off to a strict educational immersion program in Taiwan. Well, that's what she is expecting. But instead, she finds the infamous Love Boat, where she's surrounded by prodigies, and pretty much it's just a bunch of unsupervised teenagers, but I think it's gonna give her a lot of freedom and the chance to be able to explore that freedom that she hasn't had. Again, I'm feeling like my intrigue is like okay, not super high, but I would say that this one slightly beats out just because I'm so intrigued at the premise of this. So I'm gonna read this chapter and report back. This is multiple points of view. I think we're following 3 Black Muslim girls who are dealing with the aftermaths and the racism and Islamophobia that comes all the time, but specifically after a terrorist attack that happens in this first chapter. I love the writing in this, and I'm very intrigued. I actually figured out the audiobook is on script for this, so I think I'm going to like listen and read along with this today. I think this will be a really good break between the Priory of the Orange Tree. Gonna break things up. This eyeshadow is growing on me. I wish I had a different blush, like a pinky, like a baby pink kind of blush. I don't like these new lashes that I got as much as I like my Ardell Demi Whiskies. The lavender is growing on me. The Pisces life is growing on me. Oliver, you brought me Messy Mess? I have many thoughts about this. So I'm on page 224. There's about like 330 pages. I typically love when we have multiple points of view. So we're following 3 different girls. The opening one that we talked about, Sabria, Zakat, and Farah, I believe. Farah is going to visit her biological dad for like a month during the summer. She doesn't really ever, like, she doesn't have much of a relationship with him. So she was a little apprehensive about this, but she's been trying to keep an open mind, and she is really into like tech and web design. So that's where she comes into play in this like little group. This all ties in here in a second. Zakat lives, I believe, in like this small town in Georgia. I don't think it's a real place. I think it's like made up for this book. But the main thing that she's been really trying to navigate is that there have been a string of like hate crimes, and a girl who I believe she went to school with was attacked on her way home. And I love the conversations that this book is having. And I love that we're getting this representation, because Black Muslim young girl representation is like not, we don't have a lot of that in like the mainstream publishing industry. So having voices like that, especially from own voices authors, is so important. I just don't know if the execution of this is totally working for me. I know that her writing can really work for me and resonate with me and feel finished, because a lot of this feels like it just needed to be edited a little bit more. But I am loving Farah's perspective. So I was wrong when I thought that they were all physically coming together. They're not. They're actually all connected through this blog that Sabrina starts, and they all like play their own roles. So Sabrina started the blog. She does a lot of the writing. Zakat is an artist, so she does artwork for it and logo designs and stuff. And then Farah does the web design and the tech behind it. But when I started this book, one thing in the back of my mind that worried me a little bit is I was like, if we're having these 3 different perspectives and they're in different locations, if they don't end up connecting in person and those stories coming together, I don't know how we're gonna be able to have fully fleshed out stories if we're basically having 3 separate, like completely separate stories. And that's what's happening here. And because of that, it all just feels like, even though it's in time wise, this is moving by really quickly, like it's a fast read, it feels like it's going by so slowly. There's not really a cohesive plot that is kind of connecting all of them. So then what ends up happening is we're getting a lot of telling rather than showing. And when we have such a character-based story, that's one thing I feel like it makes it hard for me to get into books, is when I love character-based stories so much, but I don't feel like I get a chance to really see who these characters are and see the interactions, because instead I'm just being told about them. We rarely, other than like in a few text messages that are very surface level, we never see them interact. So they got on this like one Zoom call together, and I was like, this feels not natural, because I haven't been able to see you form these connections. Still going strong. I don't know why it like refuses to focus on that, but hopefully you can see. I think we have like 8 or 9 now. Before the day is over and I take my makeup off, I would like you to know I found ways to complete the Pisces outfit. We did it. This is what I should have been wearing all day long. I did end up finishing the last like hour and a half of You Truly Assumed. I still think I'm like right there at like a 3 star, maybe 3.5. I did like the ending a little bit more, but again, I was just left with this feeling of, I don't feel like I know the characters very well, because I only got a third of a book with each of them, and really like no book with all of them interacting together other than a quick Zoom call and some text messages. That's where we're at. Didn't read any more of Priory of the Orange Tree. Are any of us surprised? But that is my goal for today. So I figured we would go get some Dunkin' Donuts, look up and see what is the recommended drink of choice for a Pisces at Dunkin'. I might also get a donut or some food while I'm there, because I'm very hungry. And then I'll come back and finish Priory of the Orange Tree. This is Her Campus, your new Dunkin' order based on your zodiac sign. Pisces cold foam cold brew. That shit actually sounds so good. I love cold brew and I love cold foam. Let's see what it says. The dreamer of the zodiac. I feel like that is the word we've been seeing over and over again in these posts. Pisces will love how the cold foam of this drink feels like sipping on a cloud. The darkness of the cold brew contrasting with the lightness of the cold foam will remind the water sign about their last ex and have them ready to create poetry about it. I feel personally attacked by this. Okay. I might also, if I was making good choices, I would also go drop off some of these Amazon returns that I have. I should probably do that, shouldn't I? Okay, we'll do that. Tragically, they did not have my Boston cream donut. I don't think I've had tons of Starbucks's cold brew with cold foam, but I don't think I've ever had Dunkin's. The shit is tasty. It's sweet because I put a couple pumps of French vanilla in there too, and that's what I like. The French vanilla kind of tastes like caramel. Am I wrong? I panicked and just told them to get me a chocolate glazed donut instead. I don't think I like chocolate glazed donuts. That's okay because I got a breakfast sandwich. This is by far the most disappointing book I've ever read, and also the longest book I've ever read, so there's that. I don't even know where to start with my disappointment. I just read 800 pages of a book for it to end, like all wrap up this whole thing that we were leading to in 20 fucking pages. What? What? I sat through all of that lore, taking notes, going through perspectives that I will go down fighting. There was one perspective that was absolutely fucking pointless. It was my least favorite perspective, and I will fight you. Just kidding, but I will fight Samantha Shannon that it was absolutely pointless. You could remove that character and their entire storyline, and other than one little thing that they said at the end that was completely used as a plot device, pointless. Pointless. And it would have made it more interesting if that part of their story that actually meant something to the overall plot was done in a different way. Because it was, there were so many times in this book that I was like pulled out of it because I was like, that felt like a plot device. And the first time it happened, the first time a character died that I was like, that felt like a plot device, I moved on. The second time, it wasn't a character dying, but it was something else, I let it go. And then it just happened with like an increasingly amount of speed as I think she just got toward the end and then she was like, oh shit, I need to wrap this up. What? I'm so pissed. I don't even know how to put words to this. I get it. Like I was going through most of this thinking it was going to end up being like a 3.5, maybe 4-star, but there were even moments there kind of toward the end when I still had like 100 pages left. The way that it was going, I was like, okay, maybe we can actually ramp this up to like a 4-star. Maybe this ending is going to be so good because it was going there and it had, sorry, anyway, I got distracted. Because it was going there and it had that potential. And then it just went downhill so fast. And I can like forgive an ending if I don't like, it's not even that I didn't like the direction that I went. It went in the exact direction I thought it was going to go, which is infuriating in and of itself because if I'm reading an 800-page book, I want some twists. I want something. Like once I understood what was happening and we got the main point of the plot, which yes, was like 3/4 of the way through this book, but like that's just because of the setup. I could have told you exactly where this ending was going. But it all happened in like 20 pages and then we just got like a wrap up at the end. Excuse me? I was going somewhere with it, but I can't remember where. Anyway, I could rant and rant about this, but it's a 2 if I'm being generous. It's a 2 because I can appreciate how much time and effort went into thinking of worlds like this and the world building and the craft of it and putting all of these pieces together. But I feel like my time was wasted and it was like 24 hours of reading of my time, if not more, considering all of the notes and shit that I was taking to keep up with everything. And that would have been fine with me if I felt like it paid off in this epic way, but it didn't. It didn't. And I'm scrolling through all of these 5-star reviews and I'm like, did we read the same book? Also, I did not give a shit about the sapphic characters, which is saying a lot because you put queer characters in a book and I'm already going to care about them more. An epic fantasy written by a woman about women, and we have a sapphic love story and dragons. This should have been such an easy 5-star favorite of the year. And character-based, what? Gotta move on at some point or I could rant here all night about this. So, can I understand why all of these books were recommended for Pisces? Yes, and a very interesting thing that I noticed when I was almost done reading this book is that every single one of these books had multiple points of view. And they were all pretty character-based, which I think makes a lot of sense. And on paper, all of these should have worked for me. 2 of these were some of my most anticipated reads since I like got back into reading a 1.5 years ago. I'm just so sad that this, like I would have expected when we were going through looking at all of the recommendations, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be like full of nothing but 5 stars. This is gonna be my best blog yet. Best blog yet. So the fact that the highest was like, what, a 3.5? I just feel so sad because I understand, like, especially once we started learning about Pisces, I get why these are recommended for Pisces and I get why like this should have worked so well for my reading. And I did, I think, learn a few important things about myself and what I like in books and what I do not. But I hate that I'm ending this vlog on this note. Especially especially since March was going so well for me in my reading. And now I'm real worried because like I'm not reading anything. This is like the first time in a long time because I normally am working on like anywhere between 3 and 4 books at a time. And in order to get myself to get through The Priory of the Orange Tree, I was like, you cannot start another book or you're not going to finish this. But this vlog itself was still really fun. I love taking quizzes like this. I need to find more ways that I can incorporate this kind of idea where we find articles or quizzes or recommendations based off of something, because that was a blast. Just hopefully in the future, it will go better. Let me know what you think. If you made it all the way through this vlog, leave a Pisces emoji or leave your zodiac sign emoji in the comments below, so we can see what the representation is of the different zodiac signs in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching this and sticking this out with me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.